Hello and welcome to the Duquesne Sports Pregame Show. I'm Jack Morgan alongside me, Dylan Pfister, and the Duquesne Dukes are heading down the home stretch of the season here, and it feels like every game is very important. This one, no difference. It is against the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. It's on the road this time, and Dylan, you play a team twice, especially a rival team. Things are bound to change, and both teams probably going to make some adjustments. And it's just a big game overall.
Yeah, you mentioned, Jack, not just the second time around for these squads, but this one's going to be at St. Bonaventure, a place where they've been really strong this year. The Bonnies are actually 10-3 at home. Meanwhile, Duquesne struggled on the road. They haven't had that much success. They've been 1-6. They've been getting a little hot, though. It's going to be interesting for sure as both of these sides sit right next to each other in the A10 conference. Duquesne sitting at 8th and the Bonnies close behind them at 9. So it's going to be a big one for both sides for sure. Definitely a must-win game as we close out the season.
It also feels like both teams have had some rough go-abouts in the season. Obviously, Duquesne had their brutal start, but more specifically in conference, they had that game where they lost 5 or 6, stretch where they lost 5 or 6 straight in conference. The Bonnies are sort of on that type of tilt. They were able to get off a 3-game skid with a win against UMass last time out, but they aren't in winning ways for sure. And ever since the start of A10 play, it hasn't been a very good season for the Bonnies. They are 18-9 overall, but that 6-8 conference record matters more than the other wins they got in non-conference play, you'd have to imagine.
It certainly does, Jack. You talked about that UMass win. Certainly a confidence booster for the Bonnies, but not a very strong UMass team. They have been hot, though, in certain categories this year, however, around this time of the season. They struggled all year in rebounds, the Bonnies did. They've actually given up the most rebounds of any team in the whole conference. But in their last matchup against UMass, they registered the most they've had all season, 37 rebounds for the squad. So they're getting hot with their struggles at the right moment, trying to turn that around before we get into tournament play.
You know, speaking of getting hot with their struggles, Duquesne shot very well from the line last time out. They shot over 80% for the first time in what feels like forever. They've had a lot of struggles at the line, but Corbett went 4 for 4. Dixon went 4 for 4. They were just fantastic from the line, and it's kind of seeming like maybe they can round that corner there. Drew Joyce certainly hopes so.
Yeah, and that proved to be huge, Jack. I like that you brought up that free throw percentage because we've been kind of bullying the Dukes for weeks about it, but for good reason. They've been bottom in the conference in the free throw shooting, but not in this game. And against Fordham, like you said, 83% in the first half, 80% in half two, but they did struggle with shooting from the field. They went 0 for 4 with their 3-point shots in half two, but because they were able to land those free throws, they were able to pull out the win, make up for those points. Something they're really not going to be able to do against St. Bonaventure. They've had their own 3-point shooting struggles as well, but they have the guys to get it done, like you mentioned, Jack. Melvin Council Jr., Chance Moore, Noel Brown, 3 great shooters for the Bonnies. Going to be interesting if Duquesne can keep up with them shooting like they did against Dayton a couple weeks ago.
You know, Duquesne shoots 64% from the line, and in this game, they, like I said, shot 80%, but the more encouraging part was in the second half, they went 16 for 20 on their free throws. More encouraging, I think, even more so, is that they're getting to the line more often, because it feels like they're missing their free throws, but they're only attempting in between like 10 and 15 free throws a game, so you're not giving yourself much of a chance to get better, but also you're not helping yourself out in the end. So certainly an encouraging trend to look out for. We're going to go to our players to watch on the topic of looking out for people. We're going to start with St. Bonaventure again. I mixed it up last time, so we're going to go with what works. We're going to go with the flow. We're going to start with St. Bonaventure.
Jack, I'm looking at Noel Brown. I just dropped his name for St. Bonaventure. Averages 12.6 points per game, but he's doing 17 per game over the last 4. Had a double-double against the Duquesne Dukes in the win a couple weeks back. 19 points, 10 rebounds for him. I'm expecting another big game from Brown.
I liked how Chance Moore played in that game against the UMass Minutemen, and I think that 15 points he had, didn't shoot as efficiently, 5 of 14. He went 5 of 6 from the line. Personally, I think that guard play is going to be important in this game. This game tends to be a little bit of a drag it out type game some years, and it usually always comes down to the end against the Bonnies. And when you need a bucket, you're usually going to go to your guards, right? Chance Moore, I think, is one of those guys that can get buckets down the stretch, and the Bonnies are going to need him to have a big game, especially in the second half, in my opinion. We'll move on to the Dukes. And Duquesne knows, like we say all the time, there's a lot of guys you can choose from, but it seems to always be a well-rounded effort. But is there a guy that is going to push through and make a big impact for the Dukes?
Truthfully, Jack, for my player to watch for the Dukes, I wish I could pick multiple guys because that's been the winning formula for them all season, especially towards the end of the season stretch. When they beat the Bonnies the first time around, every single Duke on the active roster, recorded a field goal and a rebound. That was an all-around effort from the team. That's something they've been doing in all their victories this season. But as for one specific player, I'm going to have to narrow it down to Maximus Edwards. 17 points. That was his best game against the Bonnies in that win previously this season. So Max Edwards needs another big game for the Dukes to come out on top.
I like the Max Edwards pick, actually. I was trending towards the bigger guys, the guys that are going to play a little bit of small forward and kind of play on the wing. And I landed on Cam Crawford for my player to watch. And I say this because he had that brutal intentional foul that obviously he didn't want to do that. That's just a lapse of judgment. Everyone has it once or twice in life, and it just happens it came on one of the bigger stages for Cam Crawford. But he responded with a 13-point effort where I really liked his game on Wednesday against the Fordham Rams. So I'm looking for him to continue that momentum, continue to, get back on track mentally and physically in terms of playing basketball and winning games for this Duquesne team. I think he's going to be a player to watch, not just because of the mental aspect, but also because of the game aspect. I think that they're going to need some scoring when times get tough, and Cam Crawford has provided a scoring spark for the Dukes at times this year. Dukes fans probably hoping that he's going to be able to do that tonight. So we're going to have a live stream for this game, so you will see us. That is where you can find the game. You can also find it on ESPN+. We're going to give you our predictions. Duquesne and St. Bonaventure, both teams really need a win. Who's going to get that win, though, Dylan?
I mentioned the struggles Duquesne's had on the road, the success the Bonnies have had at home, but I don't think that's going to be as much of a factor in this one. I'm going with the away Duquesne Dukes to win it 65-59. I think they know the formula. This team has done it before against the Bonnies. They put up 14 three-pointers, made them in the last game. I think they're going to roll with that kind of offensive style again, get a big conference win on the road.
Personally, I'd like to go Duquesne, but it's just so tough to win on the road in the A-10, and I'll once again do it. I know it gets repetitive. I get it. We hammer this home, their road record, but there's reason for it. They haven't been great on the road, and unfortunately for Duquesne fans, I think this continues. I think that Duquesne loses this one in a tight one. By the way, I will mention also 1-6 on the road. I was trying to get that stat there. 1-6 on the road. That's not a good number. So I will say this: I believe there's 4-7 on the picks, and I am 6-5. If I lose this one, I'd slip to 500. And honestly, we were talking about it with producer Nick earlier. It's been a rough year for our picks, but we're hoping with the last couple here that we're able to turn things around. That'll do it for the Duquesne Sports Pregame Show. For Dylan Pfister, I'm Jack Morgan. We're saying so long and enjoy the game. We'll see you on the live stream.